want to apologize that I have not put out this video in the month that I had meant to, but when you have a baby, things get delayed. Today I'm going to talk about my top 30 books that I read in 2023. I read 110 books throughout the year. Let's start with one that I have a physical copy of. So this one's simple. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It is so pretty. I was given this for free through Paperback Swap, which I no longer do. It was my last book that I got from there because I don't have the time and resources to just swap things. But look how beautiful. There's great art throughout it. And you'll read it really fast. It takes like 20 minutes to read, but it's beautiful. Look at that. So it is a children's book and it has wisdom throughout it. And I think adults will love this as well. It reminds me of Winnie the Pooh, where it's just every page has some sort of thing that you can learn from to help your day, actually. Like this. I've discovered something better than cake. No, you haven't, said the boy. I have, replied the mole. What is it? A hug. It lasts longer. See, something simple like that on every page. It's really cute. So throughout this video, the 30 books that I chose are ones that I gave 4 or 5 stars to on Goodreads. It was a really good reading year. I had some real bad duds as well that I gave like 2 stars, 1 star. Usually I give 3 stars overall, but this year I gave the most stars I think I have given in any year. And I've been on Goodreads for over 10 years now, which is crazy to think about. So anyway, definitely recommend. This was a 4-star read. I only had about 3 or 4 5 stars, so I'm going to show those at the end of this review. I had been wanting to read this book for a long time, like seriously, a long time. When I was a child, I wanted to read this. Freckles. This is a Girl of the Limberlost book series. I think there are only 2 books. There might be a third. I have to look into that. But I read the first 2 books, or just the 2 books that they have. So Freckles, he has one hand. He's a young man, and he tries to find work. He's an orphan. He's very kind, very respectful. Throughout it, he loves learning about the land around him while trying to explore how to just make ends meet, so that way he could survive. And because he has one hand, it makes it difficult. This is set in the late 1800s, early 1900s, somewhere around that. But it was beautifully written, and I really enjoyed the characters and just learning. And it's just like, if you're into like cottagecore, or you love the Edwardian period and Victorian period, then you will love this book. It is made for middle grade, I suppose, but I think everyone can enjoy this. And when I read the sequel, A Girl of the Limberlost, which Freckles is in for like a second, he's barely in it. This is a whole new story. This is also really, really good. Like, I loved this. So both of them were 4 stars. This is about a young girl. She knows so much about like insects, butterflies specifically. She lives in a mucky, woodsy swamp with her mom. Her mom is a horrible person through most of the book. They have redeeming qualities for their different characters in this book, but she grows up over time and she wants to go to school. She's so smart, and she has people that live near her who try to help her be able to have that. And throughout it, you learn her story and you're like, whoa, like this happened and then this happened. And you're just like, there's so much that happens over time of discovery of herself and just her spirit, the positivity she has, the forgiveness she shows. It's really nice because these days when I read a lot of middle grade, they're all trying to find themselves. They're a little whiny and they're very like selfish. I love these stories where they show selflessness, but at the same time, they want what they want. And sometimes they do like say like, but this is what I really want. And she is so respectful of her elders. And I don't think you see that these days. And it was really beautifully written as well. I think I liked this a little more than Freckles, but both were so good. I'm not going to talk much about this because I had already reviewed this. You can look back. The other 2 books I had never talked about in any reviews. I read those at the very beginning of 2023 before I did these reviews. This one was, I read this at the end of 2023. So I already talked about this, but definitely one of the best books I read this year by Cynthia Lennon, her take on the relationship. And I also talked about Shady Hollow, also a really good book. Definitely one of those mysteries that you'll love, whimsical with the cute little critters. I talked about Life Giving Parent. This was one of the best parenting books I have read in a long time. Not the best, but it was one that I really enjoyed. So if you are a parent, this is a Christian parenting book, so I recommend this. I talked about how this made me cry. I loved this book. It's about a Native American girl or First Nations person. Please, if you want to learn more about things that have happened to people that are First Nations people, Indigenous people, and you have a middle grade reader, this is so good. Howl's Moving Castle. I also talked about this. Everyone that is here hopefully maybe saw the Studio Ghibli movie. So good. I think the book shows a little more than you could get from the movie, but both are amazing. But read the book. It's really good. Traveling Cat Chronicles, very touching story. This one will make you cry as well. I talked about this in the autumn time. Oh, I loved this. This was so close to getting 5 stars. I was so close, guys. That's how much I love this one. I'm not much of a cat person, but I love animals. The only one left I talked about quite a bit. This one, I was kind of surprised that I loved so much, but I kept thinking about it. I gave this 4 stars, and it just definitely makes you think a lot. One of those mysteries. It was all over the place with good reason. A Place to Hang the Moon, another middle grade book. This was, set in the 1930s, 1940s during World War II with the moving children to homes during the war in countryside out of London. Specifically, these are about 3 siblings. It was beautiful, beautiful. The Familiars I had talked about as well. This is more about the witch hunts set in England. And it was about a woman and her relationship with her midwife who was thought to be a witch. And it was very good. Well-Watered Woman, I had talked about this in a review as well. This is so good for women that are Christians wanting to be able to find encouragement to grow. Flower Heart. I recommended this book to so many people throughout the year after I read it. Oh, it was beautiful as well. So gorgeous. And it was really cute story. And once in a while you need those cutesy stories. It has a little bit of romance in it and it has some magic in it. It's cute. Give Me a Sign was about American Sign Language. It talks about a girl going to camp with a bunch of hard of hearing and deaf people, and it taught me so much. Places We've Never Been. I talked about this book as well. It's about families that they go traveling. Again, I think I said I can't talk much about it because it gives too much away, but also this is like a young adult romantic tale, and it's really cute. The Lido. This was one of the first book reviews that I had talked about this book. I can't say enough about how great this book was. A relationship between an old woman who loved to swim, tells her story, and she meets with a reporter who talks about her story. The two build a friendship and a bond, and it's so good. Simply Sustainable, moving toward plastic-free, low-waste living. First off, I love this cover because I love the farmhouse sink so much. But anyway, has a huge amount of information, but it's interesting talking about how you could live sustainably and be able to be low waste to zero waste. If you've been to my videos, you will know that I am really into living a sustainable lifestyle as well as living simply. And so many of the products or things that was talked about in this book I had already known about, so it just like further encouraged me, and then it like inspired me more. And I definitely recommend this to those who want to live in that sort of lifestyle. During the time that I was giving birth and after I gave birth, I read this book and I said how this is probably not the greatest book to read when you give birth, but it was beautiful. I loved it. It's an Amish tale about sisters. There's a whole bunch of books about, I think there were 4 or 5 books maybe. And I read all of them while I was in the hospital and like when I got home in recovery as well. And then this was the fourth book. So out of that series, the first and the fourth books were my favorite. They got 4 stars. The others got 3 stars. This was really great too. It's just one of the sisters' stories. The first book is more about another sister, but they all blend together how they tell these tales and they're all in them. So this one I thought was really well written. When I was pregnant, I read this mainly outside and it was like, oh man, I feel like going on an adventure and learning more about the travels that Laura Ingalls Wilder and the Ingalls family made across the prairie and just the things they saw, the different types of plants they had around them. This was just really good. I loved it. I thought that I would maybe be bored by it. There's photos of the family in the book, and it was just really cute. I liked this. So if you like to garden, if you like flowers, if you like plants and learning about them, if you love the Little House on the Prairie book series, you'll love this too. I've been reading a lot of Agatha Christie books over the past couple years. This was the 4th book. I've read a few more since then, and it was my favorite so far that I have read. And this one I know a lot of people talk about, even The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's well pieced together with the whodunit experience. If you love mysteries, the really old mysteries, Agatha Christie is great. But this one is just very oh, and you could guess what happened. Maybe you'll get it right, but I don't think I did. Strangers We Know. This is kind of like a true crime fiction story. So it was written where this woman, she starts to get DNA test and she learns about her family and they say, hey, come visit. But also there was a murder that happened in the area where her family lives. So she starts to uncover more about her own story and this murder. It was really good. Just whipped through this book. It was very good. I ended the year. I know I've not talked about my winter reads yet. I might put those all out soon. They were a lot of Christmas type of books, but Marmee was the best one that I had read in the winter so far and at the end of 2023. Marmee, of course, if you have read Little Women, you will love the mother, who they call Marmee. This is based heavily on Louisa May Alcott's mother. And not just from Little Women, but literally the author did research on her mother, in which Marmee in Little Women is based off of. Almost like reading Little Women through the mother's perspective, but with not as long and with the depth of mothers. If you are a mother, you know what it's like to worry for your children, for having to worry to provide for them. And this was just written like a journal. And I had read Caroline earlier in the year, which was set on Laura Ingalls' mother, but this was way better. This one was one of my 5-star reviews. I cannot tell enough people that if you are pro-gun, you need to read this. If you're anti-gun, you need to read this. It gives you so many important facts that you need to know. It is a Christian book. I've read every Shane Claiborne book out there. He is one of my favorite authors, and this book was totally worth reading. So we're all in the 5-star books right now. I had talked about this in one of my reviews as well. This is a middle grade book. I just loved the way it was written. The imagination around it, and then the reality. It's a fiction book, but the reality of the main character who wants to embrace the fiction and how they tie their thoughts, their fantasies with their realities. Oh, it is so good. This was a 5-star review. And Wish Tree, which I read to my entire family, and I was crying and I was choking while reading parts of it. Oh, it just shows you how, this is also middle grade, it just shows you how a tree, what they experience watching you if they were, able to, and watching 2 children being neighbors that have different lifestyles, different types of beliefs, different types of families, and how they can join together as friends, and just how the tree has withstood time and they might be taken down now and their life might be done after over 100 years of viewing the families that have lived in view of the tree. Raising Good Humans, best parenting book I've read since M is for Mama, which I read maybe a year or two ago. I feel a lot of parenting books, they're like, this is how you raise your child, but this was like, this is how you fix your attitude. And this is how you can be able to handle yourself while raising your child. So it gives that, like, because I'm a certified life coach, I really thought this brought a lot of aspects of life coaching and what you should think about when you live your life, and just really, really well written. Every parent should read this. It will help encourage you. It will inspire you of how to better yourself so you could be a better parent. And then you'll be able to raise good humans. Okay, this was one of the first books I read in 2023. It was the best book I read all throughout 2023. I'm going to put that out there. This was my favorite book that I read in 2023. It is a Japanese book that was translated into English, kind of science fiction, if you think about it. There's some time travel in this. Basically, when you go into this cafe, you can ask for a cup of coffee and you have to sit in a specific table. You get transported to the past. It has to be that a person that you want to visit has been to that cafe. So you could go back and you could like talk to this person or see them. And you have to do it before the coffee gets cold or you'll get stuck there. It is really amazing. The stories of each person, it made me cry. It was just so good. And there are sequels. There are 4 books. I read the first 2 this year. And I can't believe I did not put the picture here, but the second book had 4 stars from me. It's a 4-star review. So this one is my favorite book, but the second book is a 4-star review. It is basically the same cover, but yellow. There's a clock instead. And it's called Tales from the Cafe. So it's the same sort of aspect. Some of them might be a little bit of a sequel, but then there are new stories and it's so good as well. But I feel like this one had a lot better stories in it. Yeah, I just look forward to the next 2 that I have to read. Definitely read this. Like if you have to choose from any of the books that I talked about, I know my taste may not be most people's taste. I don't really read ones that people are like, oh, that's one I want to read. Thanks so much for listening to my 30 book review without really going crazy into the reviews. If you have any questions about these books, let me know. If you have a favorite book that you read in 2023, please in the comments, tell me which book you love to read. What was the best one for you? And do you have a goal for how many books you're going to read this year? Which book is the one you want to read the most this year? I made a goal to read 100 books. Again, I read 110. We'll see. Maybe I'll read less than that, maybe more. It's always varied for me. I read between like 50 and 125 books per year. So who knows? Depends on my time. Because the Olympics for the Summer Olympics is coming this year, I've been focusing a lot on Olympic books. I've read so many in the past and it's been a while, so I want to read some more. I'm reading one right now. Hard is not the same thing as bad is one that I really want to read this year. I've heard so many good things about it. I know it's a long title. I keep hearing about The Berry Pickers. That's on my list for this year. Tom Lake is one that I've seen reviewed everywhere. I want to read that one this year as well. I also want to read some classics like Howard's End. Maybe A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is my mother-in-law's favorite book. So I should probably read that and then I could tell her, hey, I read it. In regards to having simple living and minimalism, I want to read the new Joshua Becker book, Overcoming Distraction to Pursue a More Meaningful Life. I want to get through my to-read list for sure, ones that I've been wanting to read for several years. I need to work on those. So that's my focus. I'm going to read the books I want to read, not the ones that are like the most amazing in review that I might not enjoy so much. I hope you'll do the same. Read books that you want to read and then tell me about them. Thanks. Bye, guys.